The tension in the courtroom was obvious as Ms. Cotton took the stand. She wasn't just here to prove paternity, she was here to expose what she called a campaign of doubt, orchestrated by Mr. Pendleton's mother. Ms. Cotton was unwavering in her claim that Mr. Pendleton was the father of her 5-month-old daughter, Love.
Ms. Cotton, you say Mr. Pendleton's meddling mother is the reason he is denying your 5-month-old daughter, Love Cotton. You claim you are 100% positive he's the father and plan to set the record straight today.
Across the room, Mr. Pendleton stands defiantly beside his mother. He wasn't just denying paternity, he insisted that fathering a child was biologically impossible for him.
Mr. Pendleton, you are here today with your mother, and you both believe that it's impossible that you fathered Miss Cotton's daughter because you claim you are unable to have children.
The stakes were clear. Ms. Cotton was adamant that Pendleton's meddling mother had poisoned his mind against accepting the child. On the other hand, Pendleton believed science was on his side. After all, he had spent years in a previous relationship trying and failing to conceive.
Ms. Cotton, why do you believe Mr. Pendleton's mother is causing him to doubt your daughter?
First of all, I just want to say his mother needs to mind her business. Darren is a grown man, and I understand he's a mama's boy or however she treats him because that's your child. That's fine and dandy. But he's a grown man now, and he needs to stand up and take care of his responsibilities.
But Ms. Cotton wasn't backing down. But the allegations only added fuel to the fire. According to Mr. Pendleton's mother, Ms. Cotton had admitted early on that another man was a possibility. That single admission, she argued, was enough to discredit everything that followed. But then there is the biological issue too.
But when she got pregnant, she told me she was pregnant. And then like 2 weeks later, she called me and said it's a possibility, that the baby might not be mine. So if you call me and tell me that, then I'm not supposed to believe you when you say that the baby's 100% mine.
I slept with one person in April.
The deeper Judge Lauren dug into the case, the murkier it became. Cotton had initially admitted that another man was a possibility, but now insisted that her timeline of conception made that impossible. However, Pendleton wasn't buying it. She had confessed to sleeping with someone else during the same time frame. So why was she so sure now? The judge's piercing questions revealed even more contradictions.
But you did have sex with someone else, and was it protected or unprotected?
It was protected until he took the condom off.
And that would be unprotected.
But she's 100% sure. It's like, how can you be 100% sure if the guy took the condom off? You know what I'm saying? Like,
how can you be 100% sure, Ms. Cotton? I mean, that really is the question of the day besides the paternity.
Because allegedly she looked like me.
Pendleton's mother seized the moment to address the judge. She swore that she had no vendetta against Cotton, only a mother's instinct to shield her son from potential deception. But Cotton fired back with anger, and she had valid reasons.
One, we'll start with the meddling that she says I'm doing. The only thing I've done is tell him, do not get attached to this child until you find out whether or not she's yours. I told him I didn't want him to bring the baby around me for the same reason.
Cotton's defense wavered momentarily as she admitted to confusion surrounding her pregnancy timeline. She recalled how even doctors had adjusted her due date, making it appear as though she was further along. But she swore she knew more than the doctors, and Pendleton feels something isn't right.
Ms. Cotton, you're saying that you were even confused with your doctor's appointment because your conception date and the window got moved.
And they were trying to tell me that I wasn't as far as I knew I was. Like, they tried to make it seem like I wasn't, as far in my pregnancy, but I knew I was farther than what they were saying.
The argument spiraled into a heated clash of emotions, frustration mounting on both sides. Judge Lauren remained firm, pulling the case back into focus. The truth would soon be revealed.
So at that time, was Mr. Pendleton in your life helping you along with the pregnancy?
He was in my life, stringing me along. Oh, if the baby yours, we gonna be together. Had a whole new girlfriend that his mother just, fell in love with. Now y'all best friends. And anytime I would say something to him, it was, you're being petty. How am I being petty when I'm carrying a baby that I'm going through?
Pendleton's argument is understandable. He has biological issues that meant he might not be able to have a child, and Ms. Cotton had been with someone else during the time of conception. This seems like an open and shut case for him. Now, all eyes turned to the judge as she held the paternity results in her hands. This was the moment of truth.
Mr. Pendleton, you are the father. Congratulations.
Felice Baker stood before the judge, knowing that this day would change everything. At the heart of the case was a 3-month-old baby, Caleb, her son. But was he also her husband Darren's child? That was the question tearing them apart.
Ms. Baker, you say the fate of your marriage is riding on today's DNA results. You are suing to prove that your 3-month-old son, Caleb, was fathered by your husband, Mr. Baker.
Standing stiffly beside her, Darren Baker was convinced the answer was no. He had undergone a vasectomy more than 2 decades ago, a procedure considered permanent after 20 years. In his mind, it was biologically impossible for him to father another child. If the DNA test confirmed his suspicion, he vowed to walk away, not just from his wife, but from the life they had built together.
Mr. Baker, you say it's medically impossible for you to have a child, and therefore Caleb cannot be yours. You say if the DNA results prove you are not the father, you will leave your wife and family.
Yes, Your Honor.
Felice, on the other hand, was drowning in uncertainty. That her past drinking habits had left her with hazy memories, entire nights lost in an alcohol-induced fog. She didn't believe she had been unfaithful, but the truth was, she simply couldn't be sure. As she choked back tears, she acknowledged the doubt clawing at the edges of her own mind. Had something happened that she didn't remember?
At the time I got pregnant, I was drinking quite a bit. I was drinking pretty much every day, and I was blacking out at night, and I wouldn't remember periods of time. I wouldn't remember
whether you were intimate with another man or not.
Yes, Your Honor.
Darren's distrust ran deeper than Felice's drinking. Their relationship had started in scandal. Both of them married to other people when they began their affair. They had shattered their previous marriages, leaving behind a trail of broken hearts, including 11 children from their past unions. The foundation of their love was already skewed, and Darren had always feared that betrayal would come full circle.
We didn't do everything right, and I don't condone the actions that we took in our relationship. I was married, she was married, and whenever you have two people who are in a monogamous relationship come together the way that we did, there's always going to cast doubt on the back of your mind. How do I know she wouldn't do this to me?
Felice's infamous history of deception added to the cracks in their marriage. Years ago, she had appeared on national television for a shocking financial scandal. A secret had exploded in the public eye. That betrayal, Darren admitted, lingered in his mind. If she could deceive on such a grand scale before, what was stopping her now?
Her marriage before she was with me.
Explain.
There were spending issues that were taking place in the marriage that he didn't know about. And I mean, to the point where, that had put her in national limelight because she was overspending behind his back.
But this was different. This wasn't money. This was a child, a flesh and blood question mark standing between them. When Felice discovered she was pregnant, she had first dismissed it as menopause. The truth hit her only after multiple pregnancy tests, all confirming what should have been impossible. Darren, unwilling to accept the results, turned to the internet, searching desperately for an alternative explanation.
We went to the store and got a pregnancy test, and it at that time came out positive. And so he didn't believe the pregnancy test, so we went over to another store and bought 2 expensive tests, and both of those came out positive also.
For a terrifying moment, Felice convinced herself she was dying. Her mind latched onto the cancer diagnosis, sending her into a panic. Darren, too, was momentarily frozen in fear until the hospital visit confirmed the undeniable truth.
Next day, she calls me up at 11 o'clock, crying hysterically. And I said, honey, what's wrong? She says, I'm not pregnant. I said, what do you mean you're not pregnant? How do you know? She goes, I'm dying of ovarian cancer.
Because
I have every symptom. Because she went and researched.
Looked up the same thing.
Yes.
Darren's world tilted on its axis. The pregnancy defied medical logic. They had even considered a vasectomy reversal in the past, but ultimately abandoned the idea, telling themselves that 11 children and 5 grandchildren were enough. As he faced this unexplainable situation, he could only cling to one thought. If this was real, it had to be a miracle or the ultimate betrayal.
And so at that point, Mr. Baker, when you find out she is pregnant, is that a new set of worry and mistrust?
You could only imagine what was going through my mind.
Yes. I can understand why you had doubt. And I can most certainly understand why that opened up another can of worry worms for you.
The moment of truth arrived as the judge opened the envelope containing the DNA results. Will science fail, or is she lying? When the verdict was read, it landed like a hammer.
Mr. Baker, you are the father.
On On one side of this courtroom is Ms. Chirpus, but she isn't just here for herself. She is fighting for her daughter, Aria, a child she claimed had been abandoned by her father, Mr. McQueen. She painted a picture of a man who had disappeared when responsibility came knocking. To her, today wasn't just about proving paternity. It was about forcing a man to face the consequences of his actions.
Ms. Chirpez, you claim you and your grandmother have been given no choice but to drag the defendant into court today because you say he moved away and abandoned your 9-month-old daughter, Aria. You believe the DNA results will prove that he is her biological father, and you demand he stops running from his responsibilities.
But Mr. McQueen had a different story to tell. He wasn't running, he claimed. He was escaping. He revealed his suspicions, alleging that Ms. Chirpus had entertained other men throughout their relationship.
Mr. McQueen, you claim that Ms. Chirpez's relationships with multiple other men is what drove you away, and you believe that today's results will prove baby Aria's father is another man. Is that correct?
Yes.
Ms. Chirpus, in tears, recalled how they had planned for this baby together. She had moved in with him, trusting that they were building a family. Once filled with promises, their relationship had turned into something bitter and chaotic.
What has Mr. McQueen done for your daughter so far?
He has bought her 1 box of diapers and like 2 things of wipes.
So she's 8 months old, 9 months old, pretty much nothing?
Yep.
And I can see that that really hurts you. You very angry about that?
Yes.
Tell the court.
It's hard because, I don't know, I didn't ever see it like this.
Ms. Chirpes told the court that she had caught him cheating. Not once, not twice, but multiple times. And yet, she had stayed, believing that the baby they had wanted would keep them together.
The only reason you're questioning me is because you were unfaithful.
I was unfaithful, yes.
And so you caught him cheating on you?
Yep.
And how did this lead to the paternity question? I mean, if you say you were faithful, he cheated on you, that still has nothing to do with Aria's paternity.
It's because he doesn't trust himself, so he thought it was all right, so he assumes I thought it was okay to be cheating on him.
According to McQueen, the baby at the center of this dispute might not even be his. He had seen questionable messages, heard whispers of infidelity, and even discovered that she had spent the night at another man's house. It was enough to shake his trust, enough to make him walk away.
Mr. McQueen, is there truth to that? Are you just out there doing the wrong thing and you think she is too? What evidence do you have that she's even cheating?
I have heard numerous times and have seen her phone from the corner eye view of walking by that she is getting attention of other men. She's getting money from other men while I am working 12 hours a day, 6 days a week.
Ms. Chirpes' grandmother, an older woman who had stepped in to help raise Aria, couldn't hide her disappointment. She couldn't understand how a man could abandon his own flesh and blood. Her voice trembled as she insisted that Aria was his child, that he had once been excited about becoming a father, and that now he was running from a responsibility he had once embraced.
I'm mad at Mr. McQueen because the responsibility is falling on me and my husband, and it should be his responsibility for the baby, not our
How is the responsibility falling on you?
Mr. McQueen didn't deny his infidelity, but in his eyes, it was a reaction to what he perceived as her emotional distance. He claimed she always sought attention from other men, prioritizing their validation over their relationship.
McQueen, did you plan to have Aria?
Yes, we did plan on having a
So now she's here. What's the problem?
The problem is that when I was at work, she was doing what I don't even know, talking to all these other men during all of this, and this was, not okay with me.
The accusations flew back and forth. He was unfaithful, she was unfaithful, and somewhere in the middle of it all was a baby, caught in the crossfire of their broken trust.
Using me for a place. I wouldn't give you money,
live with
so
you. I was
went
living
to
with my
another ex-boyfriend
dad.
to get money. Yeah, and I took you out of there, so you didn't have to put up with the bad situation.
I could have stayed there.
To what? Put her in a worse one?
That was not the plan.
Mr. McQueen wasn't convinced that Ms. Chirpes' guy friends were just friends. His doubts had been festering for months, fueled by the lingering question, was Aria truly his? The judge listened carefully to the arguments, the bitterness, the pain. It all came down to one thing, the truth.
The biological father is Mr. McQueen.
See?
Kevin Kidd and Tanova Rawlings are accusing each other of manipulation, deception, and outright lies. At the core of their dispute is a little boy named Nathaniel.
Mr. Kidd, you say Ms. Rawlings is a manipulative user who convinced you that you were the father of her son, Nathaniel, then changed her mind when someone better came along. You and your mother say Ms. Rawlings' mind games have wreaked emotional havoc on your family, and you are 100% positive you are her son's father.
Kevin swore he was the father, while Tanova was just as adamant that he wasn't. And today, with a single DNA test, the truth would finally be revealed.
Ms. Rawlings, you say Mr. Kidd is fully aware he is not Nathaniel's father, as he himself told you he cannot have children. You say Mr. Rawlings and his mother are two desperate people who convinced themselves Mr. Kidd is your son's father, and you intend to prove them wrong today.
Tanova met Kevin through a mutual friend when she was vulnerable and struggling to find a stable place to stay. One thing led to another, and their relationship turned physical, though never emotional. At the same time, she had been involved with another man, a man who later questioned whether he, not Kevin, was Nathaniel's true father.
I didn't have anywhere to go. And that's how me and Mr. Kidd ended up having relations, because I was staying with him. But as, everything progressed and everything started off, somehow another female came into the picture. And I went off and did my own thing and was dealing with him and another gentleman also.
According to her, Kevin had once confessed that he was infertile, that a rare blood condition made it impossible for him to father a child. Yet, despite this claim, he had latched onto Nathaniel and convinced himself of a bond that simply didn't exist.
When I found out I was pregnant, Mr. Kidd told me himself that he had some type of rare form of blood disease and that me and his child would die if I was pregnant by him.
Tanova was sure that Kevin couldn't be the father. If Kevin had this disease, then it would seem like he is trying to lay claim to another man's child, and Tavana cannot accept that. However, Kevin's mother stepped in to clear her misconception.
It's not a rare blood disease. I am ARH negative, and he is ARH negative. If she's RH positive and doesn't get the necessity shot during the pregnancy, it could prevent her from having future children, or that child could pass away.
Kevin wasn't just fighting for himself, he was fighting for his mother, Ms. Jenkins, who had embraced the child as her own grandson from the moment she saw his picture. The resemblance was undeniable, she insisted. The same eyes, the same nose, even the same lips. Lips she claimed belonged to their family alone.
How do you find out about the baby?
I got a phone call from my daughter, and she said, "Mom, you need to look at this picture." Sent me a picture of the baby. I was like, who got my son's baby pictures? She said, "That's not your son." I said, "Yes, that is. I gave birth to him. I know who he is."
But Tanova wasn't moved by the sentimental arguments. She had her own version of events. However, Kevin's conviction remains unshaken. He had been there when she first announced her pregnancy, received letters from her while he was away, and for a time, believed he was going to be a father. Then, suddenly, Tanova's attitude changed. She became distant and evasive. Kevin and his mother were left scrambling for answers while another man entered the picture.
You say you know Mr. Kidd is not your child's biological father.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a manipulation tactic.
It was, as long as you were giving her what she wanted and needed at the time, it was okay. I've never one time been told I wasn't the grandmother. She did not ever say that she doubted full-heartedly that Kevin was the father.
The judge listened carefully as both sides revealed their tangled history. The evidence was conflicting. On one hand, Kevin had allegedly admitted to infertility, a claim that, if true, would make his insistence on fatherhood nothing more than wishful thinking. On the other hand, Ms. Jenkins's unwavering belief in the resemblance between Kevin and Nathaniel couldn't be ignored. Then there was the other man, the second possible father, who had also questioned the child's features, comparing them to his own, and even his daughter's. If he was right, Kevin and Ms. Jenkins were chasing a dream that was never real to begin with.
The other potential father, did he ever acknowledge that he could be the father or express interest in being in Nathaniel's life?
Yes, he did, because he was the one that actually told me to get a test to see if I was pregnant. And me and him were sick together. And he actually reached back out to me because he had some other situations going on.
Ms. Jenkins believes that no matter what was said in court, biology was on their side. She had seen the baby, and she was certain that it was her son's. The courtroom was silent as the judge prepared to reveal the DNA test results.
Mr. Kidd, you are the father.
Mr. Scott took his place in court in a mask of seriousness. He wasn't just here to dispute paternity, he was here to reclaim his reputation. Over the years, multiple women had accused him of fathering their children, and today he was determined to prove that Miss Crane was just another false claimant. With 6 children from 3 different women already, he had no intention of adding a 7th child to the mix.
Mr. Scott, you say you are appearing in court today to clear your name.
Yes, Your Honor.
You state many women, including the defendant, have dragged your reputation through the mud, claiming you are the father of their children.
Yes, Your Honor.
You admit to having 6 kids by 3 different women.
Yes, Your Honor.
Miss Crane, however, was certain. She insisted that 3-year-old Jaylyn was undeniably Scott's son. As far as she was concerned, the only reason Scott denied paternity was because he was a habitual liar and a serial cheater. Ms. Crane claimed their relationship was built on deceit, his deceit, and now, after years of neglect, she was demanding $5,000 for child-rearing expenses he had never contributed to.
Ms. Crane, you say you were always faithful to Mr. Scott and that Jaylyn is definitely his son.
Yes, Your Honor.
You argue Mr. Scott is the one who cheated and claimed that during your pregnancy, you
true.
found out he was a married man.
She's been,
Yes,
she's
Your
been
Honor.
cheating the whole time.
Never.
Scott scoffed at the accusation, shaking his head as he recounted a different version of events. He claimed that Crane's actions had always been suspicious. The final straw came when he discreetly followed her one day, only to witness another man pulling up to collect her. She had admitted to seeing other men, he claimed, though she denied it in court.
Explain to me why you have these doubts about Ms. Crane.
Where you want me to start at?
I want you to start from the beginning and
Okay,
tell
well, first
me
of
the
all,
truth.
when we're together, you know, her cell phone will ring, she'll walk out the room. She'll cut her cell phone off. She'll leave her cell phone with her best friend. Or like after we spend the night with each other.
However, Miss Crane wasn't about to let him rewrite history. She recounted the moment her world shattered. Among his deleted calls, she traced a number that led her to a shocking revelation. Scott was still deeply entangled with another woman, one who claimed to be his wife of 9 years. That woman, furious and territorial, had gone so far as to demand the impossible.
Your Honor, I was 7 months pregnant. I didn't know where Marcel was. He used my phone one time. He deleted all his calls. So I went back on the internet, went back to the research, called all the numbers he called, and found out he was married for 9 years.
That's true, I was
Thank you.
married. That's true, I was married, but I've been divorced since December 2009.
Yet now, standing in court, his words had changed. He wasn't so sure. His uncertainty, he claimed, stemmed from Crane's own behavior. He had been told she once covered Jaylyn's stroller with a blanket when running into mutual acquaintances, as if she were hiding the child's true parentage. He had seen text messages, heard whispers, and learned that she had been romantically involved with none other than his ex-wife's cousin. Worse, she had been branded with tattoos of multiple men's names, including one that, to him, was a clear indication of her infidelity.
Miss Crane has a tattoo on her body.
Well, I don't know if she still has it, but what she just told me recently that she had it covered up, she has not 1, not 2, not 3, but 3 dudes named tattoo.
No,
on
Your
her.
Honor, I had one, and that was my ex-boyfriend for 5 years.
Now,
The
I don't know
baby
if
that
it-
she's saying is yours?
I don't know if it was one of them men, but the dude that she was with was my ex-wife's cousin.
The judge frowned as she sifted through the tangled mess of accusations and counterclaims. Had Crane deceived Scott, or was Scott simply weaving a web of doubt to escape responsibility? As the arguments spiraled, the courtroom buzzed with murmurs, each revelation feeding into the drama of the case. And then came the ultimate bombshell.
Broken up after I found out he was married.
Call back 2 weeks later.
Were you
Come on.
pregnant
Never.
when you found out?
Yeah, I was 7 months pregnant. And at the doctor's
She didn't even
appointment,
have
I
a
seen
car.
his wife, and she was pregnant at the same time.
Yeah, they was.
Wait a
Me
minute.
and her wasn't
You
together.
were divorced
Yeah, we
from
got
your
divorced,
wife.
but then we still messed around from time
So you
to
got
time.
her pregnant after you
Yeah,
divorced
I mean, I'll admit it.
Your Honor, and then when
I
I
will
asked
admit
him about it,
Scott claims he is divorced from his wife, but they're still intimate. The supposed divorce he had sworn to was a technicality. The truth was that he and his ex-wife were still bringing children into the world together. Scott didn't deny it, but he has a pressing argument.
My baby, if she knew this was my baby, she's 100% sure. Then how come you didn't put my name on the birth certificate?
Your Honor, why
How he
would
doesn't
I
have
put his
my
name
last
on the birth
name?
certificate?
Why
He's
he don't
been
have
married
my
for
last
9
name?
years.
All my kids, I got 9 kids, I have 6 kids, and I take care of all my kids.
To Scott, the whole back and forth was irrelevant. The only thing that mattered now was the test, the one indisputable piece of evidence that could silence all speculation.
No, I have not,
Your
because
Honor, let me tell you
she
something.
won't let
No,
me.
I got home from work. My
All right.
son was outside playing.
You never had a job.
And he came, please.
Never had a job.
Just like you didn't, right?
ain't got no job,
Anyway,
man.
so he was at the front gate. We have a gate in our building. So he was like, Jalen, come here, Jalen, come here. So I'm like, who's calling my son? So we go over to the gate with my son. He gave my son $1. 5 minutes after talking to me and my son, he took it back.
The courtroom held its breath as the judge revealed the DNA results. This is the moment that Scott has been waiting for 3 years.
Mr. Scott, the wait is over. You are the father. Told you!
The courtroom was tense as Mr. Hamilton's eyes shifted between Ms. Lombardi and the judge. This wasn't just another routine paternity dispute. This was a battle laced with years of mistrust, infidelity, and a desperate search for the truth. And the stakes couldn't have been higher. Hamilton had come to court demanding 2 things: a lie detector test and a DNA test. He wasn't just suspicious, he was convinced that the woman he had spent over a decade with had betrayed him. The child in question, little Janae, was the 4th in their complicated, turbulent relationship. And according to Hamilton, something about her was different.
Mr. Hamilton, you have petitioned the court for a lie detector test on Ms. Lombardi, as well as DNA testing regarding her baby daughter.
Yes, Your Honor.
You say it is your belief that the defendant was unfaithful to you around the time of conception.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Lombardi, however, was outraged by the mere suggestion. She had already endured paternity tests behind her back for their other 3 children. How many times would she have to prove herself? To her, Hamilton wasn't after the truth. He was consumed by jealousy, a man so blinded by insecurity that he was willing to tear his own family apart. But Hamilton had reasons, ones that weighed heavily on his mind.
Ms. Lombardi, you argue that Mr. Hamilton is simply blinded by jealousy and paranoia.
Yes, Your Honor.
So much so, you say he previously went behind your back and had your other 3 children tested
Your
for
Honor.
paternity
Yes.
without your knowledge.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Lombardi's behavior has become suspicious to Hamilton, and he insists it's not a question of jealousy. However, Ms. Lombardi was adamant that Hamilton was chasing after shadows, and that his behavior has created distrust and is tearing the family apart.
So, Mr. Hamilton, are your fears that Ms. Lombardi's cheating simply jealousy?
No, Your Honor. It's actually history and reality. Like you just stated, I had to get our other 3.
Now, Mr. Hamilton wants to drive his point home. He recounted the moment that had planted the deepest seed of doubt, but Ms. Lombardi swore it was innocent, that she had changed after the friend left. But to Hamilton, it was a scene he couldn't forget.
From Seattle. I'm driving home. I see one of my, and this is around the time of conception here. I see one of my buddies coming out my apartment.
Out your apartment?
2 in the morning, Your Honor. 2 in the morning. Okay, I asked him, I say, man, what you doing in my house, man? He's gonna tell me he bring some DVDs back that I let him borrow the week before.
And that wasn't the only red flag. There were other moments, little cracks in the foundation of their relationship that deepened his distrust. The edible portion that was half empty when he had never even opened it, the late-night calls, the sudden defensiveness when confronted, and then, of course, there was the baby.
Mr. Hamilton, I need you to give me more specific stories about why you're so doubtful.
Okay, Your Honor, I can give you one right now out the back. I get home one day, okay, I'm trying to be romantic with her. I go upstairs, because, it's a special little day for us. I go in the closet, I get out the edible ocean. That eyeball that never was open. It's half empty, but I didn't taste it.
Hamilton fixated on Janae's appearance, insisting she didn't resemble him the way his other children did. She was darker, different. Lombardi scoffed at his reasoning. Skin tone meant nothing. She pointed at Hamilton's features, the child's, swearing they were identical, but Hamilton wasn't convinced. He had seen something else, something he couldn't shake.
Signed Janae's, but yet he's denying her.
Like a fool, Your Honor. And
Tell
you know
me.
what? I didn't sign
Jerome, could you please hand this to Miss?
Okay, you running court now too?
No.
Okay, Jerome, yes, hand that to me.
Please, I want you to see that
All right,
but he did not sign our other 3
All
children.
right, so ours is what, Miss Lombardi?
That is Janae's birth certificate, yes.
Their relationship had already suffered irreparable damage. Ms. Lombardi accuses Hamilton of not taking care of the baby because he thinks the baby is not his. But Mr. Hamilton told the court that he is a responsible husband and won't treat his kids differently. It was an emotional moment for Mr. Hamilton, and Judge Lauren saw it too.
I love them to death. I do anything for my children. I'm a great.
So then why won't you take care of her?
I do, Marie, and you know it, and you lying. And anytime, like I said, if I find out this is my baby, it's gonna kill me inside because I denied it. You know what I mean? I mean, it's tough. It's a tough situation. Nobody would understand, man.
However, just when the judge wanted to bring the results, Ms. Lombardi confesses that she had indeed slept with Hamilton's friend around the window of conception. But as the court was recovering from the bombshell, another one dropped.
To the polygraph examiner that you did indeed have sexual contact with someone other than the woman who disclosed to Ms. Lombardi.
How many? Because I know.
And the lie detector determined that was the truth.
Yeah.
That's all the truth.
So? How many?
You slept with my ace, man.
No.
The courtroom was silent as the judge turned to the results. The weight of the moment pressed down on everyone. This time, the results delivered a gut-wrenching blow.
Mr. Hamilton.
Yes, ma'am.
You are her father.
Oh my God, I knew it! I told you!